Hey Fae folk, welcome back. So a couple weeks ago on the channel, I did a video entitled Why We Love Barbie, where I had asked you all what it is that draws you to the Barbie brand and what makes you a Barbie fan. And today we're here to do the same thing, except for Bratz. So once again, I headed over to my community tab and I asked you all, if you're a Bratz fan, why? What's the reasoning? Like, what is it that draws you to Bratz? And I did get tons of responses again. So once again, thank you to you all, because a video like this is inherently impossible for me to make if you all aren't participating. So huge shout out to everyone who did answer in the comments there. So now I've consolidated those into that's 10, five main reasons why we tend to feel drawn towards Bratz. That's definitely not all encompassing, but I was just like, trying to pick the reasons that I saw the most that might like resonate the most widely. So we're going to be going over those five reasons today. But before we can get into that, I do just need to say this was intended to be a four-part series. So starting with Barbie, today we're doing Bratz, and then I was going to do Monster High and Rainbow High. However, with the Barbie video, like the turnout, like for the actual video itself, was sort of middling, which like that's fine. If you don't like something, you obviously don't have to watch it. But it was just like I don't know if people are in love with this, on the off chance that it was just like a fluke and like maybe people weren't as interested in the Barbie one, but might be more interested in like the Bratz or the Monster High, etc. We are obviously doing today's video. I mean, I'm literally sitting here filming and it's going to be posted and you're going to see this. But if this video doesn't perform super duper well, then we're not going to end up doing the Monster High and the Rainbow High ones. Again, not because I'm like mad or anything. I just don't want to be shucking out content that you all clearly aren't enjoying. So if you do like this video, if you could like, comment, subscribe, hype, just to let me know that you like this and you want to see the other two, please do so. Obviously, if you don't want to see it, that's fine too. But I did just want to let you all know that like I'm still open to doing the series, but it just might not, depending on how interested you all are. So there is not a community post ready for Monster High as of time of filming this. Give it like 3-4 days, and if you don't see a community post asking for, hey, why is it that you like Monster High, just know that that video probably won't be happening at that point. So that's sort of like where we're at, the little clerical stuff we have to get through. That's the boring part. Let's talk about Bratz and why we love it. So the first reason out of the five that we're going to be looking at today is like the most predictable, let's say. I don't want to call it boring because it's still a very, very good reason, but it is definitely the most predictable reason that people might feel drawn to Bratz. And that's simply nostalgia. As one of you all put it, a lot of it is nostalgia. I was a Bratz obsessed kid, from the dolls to the movies and TV show to the video games. I love the world and the characters so much. And even as an adult, I enjoy rewatching and replaying them. I do think that just inherently for any brand that's like, more than a year or two old, nostalgia is likely to be a factor as far as why people enjoy it. Obviously, Bratz originally came out in the early 2000s. So those of us who like grew up in that era or who were already adults and already doll collectors in that era probably have reasons to remember Bratz fondly. So like I was not at all shocked to find that several of you all mentioned nostalgia. Another person specifically said they're like little time capsules of the fashion of their era, even the newer ones. They capture it so vividly and stylishly that it's hard not to appreciate them. And I do think that that is like such a good point. While the Bratz, like you can be nostalgic for the Bratz, they also are so 2000s coded that you can almost be nostalgic for the era through the Bratz. As yet another one of you all put it, I had never had a Bratz growing up, and yet I'm still nostalgic towards them. Their 2000s fashions just really remind me of when I was a kid. And so I do think that that makes the nostalgia factor a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unique for Bratz, because obviously there are people who are nostalgic for the Bratz brand, who are nostalgic for perhaps going into Toys R Us back when we still had that in the US and like looking at the shelves and seeing all the Bratz dolls and like buying one or maybe getting your first Bratz doll for Christmas, like those, normal little nostalgic moments that you might be able to have with any doll brand. But I think there is really something special about the fact that Bratz can also make people simply like nostalgic for the time period. It's not even just the brand, but it's like they so entirely encapsulated the vibe and the feel of the 2000s, like especially the earlier 2000s, I would say, that looking at them, you just are transported back to an entire time period, not necessarily like a time period in which you're actively playing with the doll, like it might not evoke that specific memory, but it will evoke memories of maybe the music of the time period or like other things that you were into, the aesthetics, like the funky decor. And I think that is so, so real and so, so, so cool. And honestly, maybe a part of the reason that I personally have gotten so into Bratz lately, because like they just still have such a cool vibe about them. So we had to give the nostalgia shout out. But I do think that Bratz are like kind of special with it. The second reason why people love Bratz is arguably like the more important reason that we're going to be talking about today. And I do need to warn you in advance, I'm going to get like maybe a little bit ranty as we go through this one. So I don't know, prepare yourselves for that. But the second reason that people find themselves super, super drawn to the brand is the diversity and also the emphasis on friendship between the four main characters. As the Plastic Critic put it, what I love the most about Bratz outside of the fashion is the emphasis on friendship and diversity. A group of girls who are friends and fashionable and are always encouraging one another. And it really is like the tie in. You'll see as I'm rambling that it is the diversity and the friendship that make it so, so important. But before I get up on my soapbox here, I did want to read one more quote from another one of you who said, "The fact that there's no real main character of the core four. They are all of equal importance, even though the doll line says otherwise." And this is something that I definitely think applies more to Bratz's like initial run, again, back in the early 2000s. Not to say that it doesn't apply at all to today, but just like in the days of 2026, we have both fallen so far backwards in terms of like just being horrible to each other and racism and all of that jazz. But we have, on the brighter side, also seen a lot of other doll lines really, really branch out and make diversity a point in their doll lines. I mean, Monster High has a ton of different diversity. Barbie has gotten extremely, extremely diverse. Like, it's not as unusual, I guess is the best way to put it, to see a diverse doll line in 2026. That's not to say that it isn't still important. It very much is. But I'm just saying that, like, when we look at this through the lens of Bratz releasing in the early 2000s, I'm just fully knocked my mic. Sorry, little lady. But that's like where it really becomes exceptional that they did release a doll line with four main characters who are all of different diverse like races, and instead of like it just being another situation where the white blonde girl is like the main character and then she has her diverse friends, which is sort of what Barbie was more doing in like the 90s and also a little bit at the time in the 2000s. And it was really just like, yeah, these are all the main character. There's not one main character, it's all of them. Talking about dolls in that regard, like I said with Barbie, at the time, it wasn't as though there weren't Barbies that weren't white, right? Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. But this was before Barbie had their big diversity boom. This was before the advent of Brooklyn Barbie. The Barbie was what we now know as Malibu Barbie. The Barbie was the white, blonde hair, blue eyed girl. And yes, she had diverse friends. We had Christy, we had Teresa. Like, there were Barbie dolls that were of like diverse races, but Barbie herself was a white girl. And like that was the main way that she was portrayed, even to the point where like with Barbie movies, not one Barbie movie from like the early era where Barbie is just a black girl. Barbie is just a Hispanic girl. That's not a thing. They would produce dolls that were like variants, but on the big screen, Barbie was a blonde white girl, and that was all she was ever going to be. I'm not trying to like hound on Barbie, I promise. I'm just trying to paint the picture of where we were at in that era. And it definitely wasn't just dolls, unfortunately. It was really everything. I mean, thinking about shows of that time period, it was so common for that to be the same setup as Barbie had, where the white girl was the main character. And like, yeah, there would be diversity in the show, but they were always side characters, right? Like, it wasn't a truly diverse and truly equal cast because the main character had to be white. Like, it was just such a common thing. Like, it was so much more pervasive. It's still very pervasive. Please do not get me wrong. I'm not by any means in 2026 trying to say that we've like grown past this. But nowadays, like even still, whiteness is sort of seen as like the default in society in ways that you don't even necessarily notice because it's so ingrained. Like, it's literally in everything. And it was even worse in the early 2000s. And so the fact of Bratz coming out with this doll brand, and again, it wasn't Chloe and her diverse cast of friends, it was the core four. the core four were all friends and they were all on equal footing. I don't remember much of like the Bratz films. I know I saw some of them when I was younger. I just like don't have super strong memories of them. But to my memory, it wasn't Chloe is driving the plot forward and like her friends are just sort of tagging along or they're there in the background for her. Like they all were involved. They all had their own roles. They all mattered and they all felt like main characters, which was a huge deal to put this diverse cast of characters instead of being Chloe's friends, but to put them like on the same level as her and give them all the same level of importance for it to be not the Chloe show, but the Chloe, Jade, Yasmin, and Sasha show was such a huge deal. The second quote that I read to you did reference the fact that the dolls did not always live up to that, and that becomes like a really complicated issue of like, is it the fault of MJ who was producing them? Because there were a lot of times where you would miss out specifically on Sasha. Like Sasha specifically was left out of the core four in doll lines with relative frequency, which obviously really sucks and hasn't even been fixed today. I'm looking at you, Hello Kitty release. But it does open up like the can of worms of like, was that MGA? Was it the retailers who would, you know, buy shelf space or sell shelf space for the other three, but they wouldn't do it for the black girl? I don't really know. I do just want to acknowledge that. Like, definitely the dolls were not always perfect in their representation. And again, they still aren't perfect in their representation. But for the time, it definitely felt like they were trying a little bit harder than other brands that were like super widely available, if that makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of people really saw themselves in Bratz growing up because of that. Like, I'm sure a lot more people felt connected to the brand because it wasn't like it's hard for me to talk about from the perspective of someone who grew up as a white girl. So like I always got to see myself in Barbie, but I'm sure that the people who had to like work way harder to see themselves in Barbie because she didn't physically look like them were able to see something in Bratz that like I just get by default. And I think that's a really wonderful thing, even though again it wasn't perfect. Really and truly, especially at the time they came out, the diversity for Bratz was groundbreaking and was so important. And so obviously like there was no way we were going to make this video and not talk about that impact. The third reason that you all brought up was one that I honestly and truly did not expect at all, because it's also something that I hear a lot when people talk about why they hate Bratz, and that is their specific look. Obviously, Bratz have a very specific look. Like a lot of dolls have the big head, but they have like the big head and a very unique face sculpt with like such a teeny tiny, like almost not their nose. So it's really all in the eyes and the lips. And they have like an interesting body sculpt and they have huge feet. Like they just are very differently proportioned to a lot of dolls. And again, that's something that I frequently hear being cited as far as like why people hate Bratz. So it was kind of fun to see it brought up in the actual opposite situation. As one person put it very succinctly, I also love their specific brand of stylization. And it is a brand. Like, I mean, you see Bratz and you see Bratz art and it's immediate. You know that is Bratz without a shadow of a doubt. Another person elaborated a little bit more. I like their pretty faces and wacky proportions. Big heads, long limbs, big feet. They give a lot of space for designers to do something interesting with. And I do think that that is a fair assessment. You know, I think the largeness of the head, outside of it just being something that like looks kind of cute on dolls, it gives more face. I mean, it does. It gives more space for screenings on the face. And especially because, again, their face is like a little bit flatter in that regard of like they really almost have no nose whatsoever. It sort of frees up some more real estate to again do something more interesting with the eyes and with the lips and like really just making the makeup sort of the focal point versus trying to make like a realistic face, semi-realistic face, like something like Barbie or even Monster High faces are like smaller. So they can get very intricate, but they just have less real estate going on. And then the way that the huge feet balance out the head, personally, I've always really liked. Like, I love the big feet, big head combo. I just do think it's a really interesting thing. And the way that that commenter put it, that it gives like room for the designers to do something funky. I think that's very true. I mean, if you, I just keep harping on Barbie, but I swear to God, it's not because I'm like trying to hate on Barbie. It really is just because it's like a very easy brand comparison because everyone has heard the name Barbie, right? But if you think about Barbie, like they're sort of constrained within the realm of close to realism. You know what I'm saying? Like they aren't perfectly realistic dolls by any means, but they're much closer than a lot of other like brands of dolls, and specifically when we can compare to Bratz. And so they need to be more grounded in reality, specifically in terms of like their shape language with the actual body of the doll. Whereas Bratz, they're humanoid, but like people don't actually look like that. And so it does free up some room because they're a little bit more cartoonish in their design. And so that does allow a little bit more creative freedom than something that is more realistic. And so I don't know. I just thought this was really fun. I very definitely love the stylization of Bratz. I think that it is really fun and really unique and really pretty. And as I said, extremely recognizable. And it was just super nice to see something that like I frequently see hated on, cited as, no, this is what makes me love Bratz, is how just weird they look. For the fourth reason that we love Bratz, I will just be using a quote to summarize this because it's nice and like well put. This person just simply said, I love how each of them clearly has their own defined style, which you might think is like something that's just a given. You'd be surprised. Obviously, again, going with something like Barbie, Barbie like just goes all over the place. Barbie can be anything. And if you watch that video, that's a reason why people love Barbie. Like that's the wonderful thing. It's just that people like different things. And so the benefit of one brand doesn't have to be the detriment of another. But because Barbie can be anything, she doesn't really have just one sense of style. Like she dresses in anything, even something like Monster High, you know, it gets sort of tricky because like they're so themed to be monsters, right? That like I do think the stylization is a little bit secondary. But like Draculaura, for example, is supposed to have a little bit of like a gothic flair, a little bit of like that Victorian. Oh my god, I cannot talk today. That Victorian like hint of feeling to her clothes. Sometimes the dolls are more successful in evoking that than others. Something like Rainbow High, ages ago I did a couple of videos on how Rainbow High's stylization is actually wildly inconsistent. Taking for example Bella Parker is just like the first one that pops into my head. I keep thinking of the Pink Girls. I don't know why that's happening, but Bella Parker's original doll was very Chanel. It felt very like preppy and put together and like just like clean, like that sort of situation. And then she got a junior high doll in like a weird little onesie. And like the point that I always made when I was making those videos was obviously real people can have variations to their style, but when you're a doll and you're supposed to be specifically representing one style, it does end up being sort of weird when you like go so astray of that style. Another really good example is Jade Hunter. The original Jade from Rainbow High was literally just like a Billie Eilish knockoff of the way that Billie looked at that time. And then subsequent dolls sort of had to actually develop their own style. And it wasn't that they developed off of that style, really. Like, it wasn't like they said, oh, the original Jade is in like these loose, like comfy, like kind of sporty, kind of like skater clothes. And they were like, okay, let's make her look a little less like Billie Eilish and give her her own personality a little bit. They just like completely shifted the type of clothing that they put her in. So even something like Rainbow High, that is arguably supposed to be more fashion focused and very specifically, at least in the heyday when they were first coming out, literally defined the styles of these characters. I don't remember whether it was on the boxes, but I know for sure you could go to the Rainbow High website and like in the meet the characters section, it would tell you, hey, this is Ruby's style. This is Poppy's style. And they were supposed to have these very distinct styles. And then they just like really didn't stick to that almost at all, except for Skylar, who gets denim everything still, including swimsuits. This isn't a Rainbow High video. Point is the Bratz have done a really excellent job of letting all the characters have their own style and maintaining that style. As another one of you put it, I love that the Bratz kind of wear everything but still feel like them. For example, Yasmin is more bohemian style, but even when she does go outside of the style for multiple lines, it still feels like it suits her personality wise. That is such a hard thing to do. Like, it is genuinely quite difficult to be exploring all of these different themes and all of these different lines and everything and still maintain each character's individual style. But I absolutely agree that Bratz manages to do that. When we first got the Scorchin dolls, one of the reasons that I really like applauded Yasmin's design was because these are dolls that were a more budget release that had, you know, variations of pretty much the same outfit on each of the dolls. They literally all had the same shoe mold, but they were able to, first of all, paint the shoes so that they like looked different enough, at least in my opinion, for them to be good. But they also were able to add little things for each character to make it feel more like them. Jade very notably got shorts as opposed to the skirts that everyone else got. But to bring it back to Yasmin, Yasmin got like a little ruffle on the edge of her skirt. I'll be inserting a picture. I don't know why I'm pointing at a doll that you definitely can't see. But Jade got like a little ruffle on her. Jade. Yasmin got a little ruffle on the hem of her skirt to soften up the look a little bit. And I feel like it still really, really fits with the sort of motocross that they're going for. It's not so distracting that it makes her look off theme, but it is unique enough to still show us some of the style that Yasmin has personally. It is very much not Yasmin in a motocross outfit. It is Yasmin adjusting her style to fit the motocross theme. And I just think that is something that like the Bratz designers are so talented with. Obviously not every single time they hit it out of the park in that regard. Like sometimes the styles look a little bit off, but generally speaking, I honestly would say that out of all the doll brands that I personally have like interacted with, I do think that Bratz has the most like consistent stylization by far. Outside of like maybe Ever After High, except for the fact that again, that's like so based in the theming that it almost, I don't want to say it doesn't count to me. It's just a different type of stylization. I don't know. I just agree with you all. I think it's really genuinely super impressive that the Bratz have very distinct styles, and yet that like always seems to somehow fit the theme. They always look distinct, but they always fit the theme, and it's really, really impressive. And then to close out the video, we're going to be talking about another something that I think is like relatively obvious as a reason that people like Bratz, but just because it's obvious, it doesn't mean that it's like any less valuable, and that is the quality of the dolls and specifically the clothing and accessories that they come with. To start off with a quote from Mini Stitches, "The playline and the collector dolls have been blowing me away over the last year. The clothes are fashionable and high quality, design is on point. Also, they've been so experimental in fashion, hair, and screening style." And I do think that that is like so cool. Sometimes when things are more experimental, I do think that you can see some like loss in quality there. Again, I don't know whether that's like actually designers or whether it's more like people higher up being like, hey, this is kind of, we're not sure about this, like we don't want to sink a ton of money into it. But the fact that Bratz can consistently put out like high quality fashions on their dolls and still be doing such interesting things with their dolls is really, really important. And like, especially as this person will be telling you, when you look at other things that are currently available, the quality of Bratz is just so nice. So this person wrote, definitely the fashion. They had some of the best fashion, and for current day, since Rainbow High got screwed over, I'm relying heavily on current Bratz fashion. Like, again, I feel so mean. I feel like I'm trashing so many other dolls on this video, but I don't know. We're praising Bratz today. That's it, okay? Like when you look at Barbie playline clothes that are comparable to Bratz clothes, they're not comparable because Bratz just is higher quality. Like you can absolutely hate the brand, even if you think everything they produce is ugly. Like the fact is that they definitely have better quality clothes than Barbie does. And like modern day Rainbow High, definitely like heyday Rainbow High, they had Bratz beat out when it comes to the quality of the clothing. But now I would say not so much. Like, not to say that the, oh, sorry, baby, I was in your way, huh? Not to say that everything that Rainbow High produces is bad quality. They definitely still make some pieces that are genuinely really, really nice. But I do feel like with Rainbow High, the problem is more that the consistency simply isn't there. And also that the design is like maybe a little bit less there. Like, Rainbow High can still put out some nice pieces, but in terms of those nice pieces being fashionable, that's a little bit more questionable. And they also definitely have pieces now, and not to say that like they didn't before, but I feel like they have more pieces now that are just like okay quality to even some that are out and out bad quality. Whereas Bratz, I feel like pretty consistently puts out really, geez, girly, you are fighting with the mic today, puts out really, really solid clothing. It's not like always the literal most detailed thing ever. I mean, I think about LOL OMG clothes and some of the things that they put out, and like definitely they have, you know, outdone Bratz in that regard, but Bratz still does have really nice quality clothes. And it's also the consistency with which they put those quality clothes out. I feel like when you buy a Bratz doll, you can expect a certain level of quality, and you will be getting that every single time. Like, at least the baseline level of quality. You know, I feel like there's a level below which they will not stoop. And I personally really appreciate that about them. One other quote that I wanted to read, just because it focused a little bit on something else, was I like the quality of the accessories. They look like real life items with so much detail. Many of the clothes are also very realistic and casual and interesting at the same time. And I do think that is such like a cool point to bring up. We're talking about Bratz being experimental and making interesting fashion, but also like most of it is something you could wear. They just have such a unique style and a unique space, like in the type of clothing that they have. It's so fascinating to me. But the part that I really wanted to highlight on was the mention of the accessories. This is definitely something that sadly I think is more of like a old school Bratz thing, just because nowadays we don't get like as many accessories with the dolls. Like back when Bratz was doing their first run, you would get dolls with 3 outfits and tons of little accessories, and they were all super duper cute. And yeah, like the commenter said, they looked like genuinely realistic and genuinely good. I mean, I have over here, you might be able to see some of them. I don't know. I don't think so actually. But some of the Bratz Babies runway dolls that come with the little like rotary phones with the actual phone cord and the phone that can come off, that is so cute. And those are actually like a reproduction accessory that came, I believe, originally with the Slumber Party line back in like the original run of Bratz. I could be wrong, my my bad if that's like the wrong line. But I think the drama was when they did the reproductions of the Slumber Party line, they didn't include the phones, and people were like upset about that. And then we got them in the Bratz Babies runway line. That was a lot to talk about. Point is the phones are so unbelievably cool. Like I think those are such a sick little accessory, and it's just like, here you go, guys. Here's a precious little phone. It's so good. But obviously there was more of that in the original run of Bratz, but that doesn't mean that they aren't doing really good accessories now, even if they do have to scale it back quite a bit from the sheer number that we used to get. The first thing that pops into my mind is the recent Pop Stars dolls, and the fact that they all come with a little vinyl, and the vinyl has like a little cardboard sleeve, and it's unique for each doll. Are you kidding? Like, it's so cute. And just, it's one of those things that I praised really, really highly when I reviewed a couple of those dolls, because it can't cost that much money to print a piece of art onto cardboard and then produce the same little vinyl 3 times, like the same little plastic vinyl 3 times or 4 times. I don't know why I said three, but you know what I'm saying. Like it can't have cost that much. And so from MGA's side of things, it's not a huge business cost. So that's obviously good for them for their profit margins, but it's still something that fits the dolls. It wasn't random. It wasn't just like thrown in there. It feels very much a part of the dolls that you're buying. And it looks so good. Like the fact that the sleeve functions and you can put the record in it is just mind blowing to me. It's so precious and so cute. So yeah, I genuinely think it's really impressive that Bratz can make accessories like that too. And to just like hammer the point home one more time, because I can't stop saying the praises of the Bratz dolls, is the fact that they're managing to do this again with quality and consistency. And like they're not making the dolls $10,000 just because they come with some accessories. Like the Pop Stars dolls, you got really pretty dolls with really nice fashion and like these accessories, and they're under $30. So I think it's really, really cool that Bratz can produce super nice quality clothing, super fun clothing, and also super nice, fun, on theme, and quality accessories. But that is finally everything that we had to say as far as why we love Bratz. And I definitely agree with all of you. Like, I have been in my Bratz kick for a hot minute now. At this point, I don't think it's an era. I think like I just have fully converted and I'm in love with Bratz as a brand. So this was pretty easy for me to agree with all of you. But even if I'm just sitting here being like, you're right, you're right, you're right, this was still a super fun video to do. So thank you once again to everyone who replied and made this video possible. Once again, if you want to see the Monster High one, do all the things, click all the buttons on here and let me know in the comments so that like I'm aware of that. But regardless of whether we get to make that or not, like if you guys are hating these, that is okay. It's not a big deal. But I do just want to say thank you for allowing me to at least make 2 of these and participating in 2 of these, because it was at least fun for me. Whether it continues on and we get to finish out the series with the other 2, or whether it has to end here, it's been a good run. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.